Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Baklava broadcast. We are taping this on a Saturday afternoon, the last day of February, and I'm once again joined by my fellow podcasters, Rahul, who had a great night in Columbus. How you doing, Rahul?
I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing, man?
Uh, Pretty well. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. It's good that I don't have to work today, which is nice. So
Yeah.
it's good. And also, Kurt, how you doing from Houston?
Doing pretty well, pretty well. Um, Ate breakfast slash lunch at about 11:30, so that's
Nice.
nice.
Not
Nice.
bad.
Sleep in a
Okay.
little.
Yeah, and I guess the main news that has caught the people's attention this week, I guess you can talk about a little bit. We actually, Rahul posted a one thing on our Facebook page that this dress thing is just everyone is talking about. So, I mean, whatever color you see, we think that Brian Deacon will look good in whatever color it is. We
It looked
think.
great in that
Uh,
dress.
yeah, you guys want to weigh in on what color do you guys see in this? I guess start with Rahul.
I swear it switches for me, but most of the time, I see black and blue. Um, what do you guys see orange or whatever it is, gold and white? Hey, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I see blue and black as well. Um, it's interesting that this has made such a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, people have a lot of important things to do with their time. If this apparently at some point had over 670,000 people simultaneously viewing the
Oh,
post on BuzzFeed. So my
I
heart
was one
cries
of
for
them.
America.
I was one of them. So. J-Rod,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Initially I saw like white and gold, but from like afar, if like I see the picture, I can also see the black and blue. So yeah, it's weird.
Dang.
It's weird how yeah people see different things at different times, or like
Yeah.
I think it might have to do something with the motion or like how your eyes
The
perceive
motion,
it. But
yeah,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And then another story that caught people's attention was these two llamas escaped in Arizona and were just running around like havoc. Um, and like they're trying to like, lasso them and everything, and like everyone, it was like caught on tape and everything, so that caught people's attention too. So
This sounds like
these
a citizen's arrest.
are the kind of stories that people pay attention to. This is probably the most relevant for llamas since The Emperor's New Groove back in a very underrated movie, I must say myself. But
that's true. That's true.
you guys have any thoughts on the llamas? Kurt, did you see that at all, or?
Well, all I gotta say is hashtag llama drama.
Hashtag.
Yes.
But no, I actually just am looking at it right now, and I wish I was there to see that. That would have been quite a treat. I'm a big llama fan, so I'm glad that they're oppressing their facilities and trying to achieve freedom. So good for them for taking that step.
Yeah.
Rahul, what do you think about the
I
llama?
I think
Well,
this
llama
is
drama.
I think this is a perfect opportunity for a semi-pro citizen's arrest. I say after this podcast, we go out there and we sell those llamas back to that zoo to make a little get a little funding for ourselves here because we're struggling
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, we need it.
Oh man. All right.
Well, alright, that's a good little discussion on yeah, just
Llama drama.
topic there, unrelated to the NBA, but yeah, I guess we'll first jump into the our normal segment where with the Cavs and looking back at last week, our predictions based on last week's podcast were correct. It seems we went 3-1, and um, yeah, so the four games were right before I guess right after our podcast last week, destroyed the Knicks, which was good. And then the Pistons, we won that one as well on Tuesday night, 102-93, a good game from Kevin Love. And then that TNT game was quite entertaining against Golden State, where we played very well, and LeBron just took over. And then last night, where LeBron and Kyrie both sat out, and we fell to the Pacers in that one. So I guess Kurt, starting us off, what were your thoughts? I guess did you see any of these games, and what do you take from this week in our 3-1 record from these games?
Yeah, I got a chance to watch the Golden State game. Thank God that was nationally televised. If it wasn't, would have been a little upset, just like when the Warriors-Hawks game didn't make national TV somehow. But yeah, that was an interesting game for sure. Kind of watching Kyrie and Steph Curry go back and forth at it, even though neither of them shot particularly well. Just kind of gets me pretty excited thinking about a potential finals matchup with this team. That would probably be one of the most watched finals in recent memory, just due to all the star power and Splash Brothers, LeBron, some pretty big names. So that was an awesome win. I know that Thompson and Curry both shot pretty poorly from the field on shots that they'd usually make, but to beat that team by double digits, regardless of how their two best players shot, I mean, at some point, I guess that has to be some of our defense, but that's a really big win. Kind of like LeBron said he's not about statement games, but he went off for 42 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. So it's nice to see that he still has that gear where he can just completely take over a game.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's on the floor. I mean, we're talking about they threw Harrison Barnes at him, who is, most people think he's a very athletic at least. He's known as a good defender. Draymond Green, obviously, Klay Thompson, and Andre Iguodala too. Like, no matter who they threw at him, like they just had no chance. So it's nice to kind of see him revitalized and just make a statement about that he still got it and that we're for real. And people may say that it was just a game, but everybody knows that for both those teams, like both of them really wanted to win that game, and it was definitely a playoff atmosphere. So that was a big win. The only other game I'll touch on, I guess, is the Pacers game, where somehow George Hill turns into the best player in the league every time we play them. Goes off for a triple-double.
True.
I know that like LeBron and Kyrie sat, and obviously that kind of hurts because they're our two best players and our best two offensive weapons. Aside from Dellavedova, I guess he probably would be upset if I said that.
Yes.
So that's losing that game. Apparently, we didn't put much stock into winning it because of who we sat. But I kind of like that. I like sitting LeBron and Kyrie every once in a while, kind of just to keep Kevin Love going, give him the ball more. He had 19 shots. He only made 6.
Yikes.
Dellavedova had 18, which is, interesting. But to keep Kevin engaged and give him his touches, I think that's a pretty good idea. And if it's a game that either we've had a couple a lot of games in a row, and we need a little rest for LeBron, and then Kyrie's obviously has the shoulder problems, but I think that's good to help keep him engaged. So it's a good week. Ended on a little sour note, but when you said those two guys, probably don't expect to win. So
yeah. Well, the Indiana game was sandwiched in between the Golden State game and the Houston game. And I'd say if you think about the top 3 MVP candidates, I think a fair argument can be made that the top 3 are Curry, Harden, and LeBron. So I think it really is about making a statement for LeBron when he sits against Indiana because he's facing the other 2 MVP candidates. And I
Yeah,
think that
good
either
point.
LeBron or the Cavs or whoever want to show that LeBron is still the top dog in the NBA. So I'm okay with him sitting. Um, and yeah, I think he did a pretty good job covering pretty much everything. That was a great game to watch against Golden State. And um, yeah, Dellavedova. Um, I don't know. It's he's not bad for like 5 or 10 minutes. That was tough to watch him as our primary point guard. Plus, like we just didn't have another point guard behind him. Like I think Shumpert was our backup point guard,
Yeah,
and Shumpert's not really a point guard. And I think we had a lot of turnovers when he played the point guard too. So um, it's maybe a slight concern that we didn't sign like a backup point guard. But we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, J. Rod, anything to add for these two games?
Um, yeah, just to touch on the Indiana game, just to go in a little more stats. Yeah, it was just a pretty poor shooting night, and that can be attributed probably to the Pacers' defense. But yeah, Kevin Love here, he got his shots, but he was just 6 for 19, and just 1 of 7 from three. So
Ugh.
yeah, it is important to get him, like Kurt said, to get him going, and hopefully to get his confidence up during like these games where LeBron sits. But that I think that has to do with like him playing like well in these games, and like for this one, I don't think he played up to his standards. So yeah, it's kind of concerning to see. But yeah, and then Dellavedova. I mean, it was weird. He had 10 rebounds and 5 assists, so he was kind of
Wow.
on his way to a really bad triple double. But
Uh,
he shot 5 for 18 in this one. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this was kind of expected to see once we saw that LeBron and Kyrie were out, and Indiana always plays us tough. So yeah, I mean, looking at the playoff picture though, I think we could face them. They could be in that 7 seed, and then we could. It seems like we're gonna move up to the 2. So it's concerning to see that both of the last two matchups we haven't played well against them. So
Plus, they're gonna get Paul George back for when
yeah,
if you want
that
to face
too.
them.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see if we face them in the round one, what we get. So yeah, I guess that was a good discussion on these last few games that we saw from the Cavaliers. I guess just looking forward, I guess just to this next week's schedule. So tomorrow we have a pretty big game against, like we said, against at Houston on ABC Sunday, and then we travel back home Tuesday versus the Celtics, who have been playing pretty well actually too. They're fighting for a playoff spot. And then Wednesday we travel to the Raptors, who have not been playing well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we finish up the week. I guess we'll just talk about this Friday game at the Hawks. I know we have a Saturday game too, but we might cover that next week. So I guess looking ahead to these 4 games, they're pretty tough slate we got here. But I guess Kurt, what do you see from these games, and maybe give like a prediction of how we do in these ones?
yeah, this is the stretch that we've mentioned multiple times coming up here. Obviously the 4 games you touched on, and then after that, Phoenix, Dallas, and San Antonio. It's pretty much probably, if you think about it, it has to be one of the toughest 7 game stretches that any team has to go through this season.
Yeah.
So that being said, with just the 4 games that we're touching on, really wish the Hawks game was on TV, but I guess you can't win them all. The Houston game, I don't know. Between the 4 games, I'd expect us to lose one. I think that, especially like with this Houston team, like with our whole side, was a really good point about LeBron. He might not say it, but he really wants that 5th MVP, and I think he's gonna go off pretty much just like with the Golden State game, and hopefully we'll get to see a little Harden LeBron one-on-one at the end of the game if it's close. Hopefully it's not close, but I expect us to win that game just purely because LeBron will want us to. And Boston, I actually think that this is a going to be a pretty losable game. It's on my birthday, so I'm just going to set the bar real low for that one. But no, like Johnny said, the Celtics are playing well. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Making the move for Isaiah Thomas apparently has panned out pretty well for them. Team that like nobody has talked about at all, and somehow, yeah, they are in the playoff race. So that could be a kind of a lull game. Toronto's playing so poorly that I don't think we could really lose that game. And then the Atlanta game, that's a game that we probably have had circled on our schedule for a while now. And I expect us to win that game for sure. So I'll go 3-1. But obviously, it's a tough 4-game slate, and I'd be okay with 2-2.
Yeah, I myself would probably go with 2-2, and the reason is because these are tough games. But even just looking at the setup of the games, we play Sunday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then if you want to throw in Saturday, we play that. So we have 2 days of break over this next week, which is pretty brutal considering the teams that we play. And I think you're absolutely right about the Rockets and LeBron, and I think we match up pretty well with them. Like, I think this is where you can see someone like Iman Shumpert will come in real handy covering James Harden, so LeBron doesn't have to do that. So I think we have a good matchup there, and I think we can pull that off. I just feel like we're going to exert so much for that game that either the Celtics or the Raptors game, we could easily drop one of those. And then the Hawks. Again, it's tough that we have to play the Hawks at the end of this tough week.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's in Atlanta too. So I would put that in the loss column if I had to decide right now. And we'll see what happens. But my prediction is 2-2 for the week. J-Rod?
Yeah, I see kind of the similar things looking ahead to this week. Yeah, it's a tough schedule, kind of going on the road and traveling a lot, to Houston and then back up to Toronto and then back down to Atlanta. That's tough. And LeBron did sit last game, but I think still that these 4 games are going to be a test. So yeah, I see it as 3-1. Yeah, I agree with you guys that the Rockets game, I think we can handle them, and Boston will be, I think, deceivingly tough. And then Toronto we should handle, and then I think we lose that Atlanta game to end the week. So yeah, not too much other things to add onto what you guys said, but I guess that'll be it for our Cavs discussion, I guess, for now. I guess moving on to more recent news in the NBA, one of the contenders that we are kind of competing against, the Chicago Bulls, suffered a significant, maybe not as significant as before, but still a big loss in the injury to Derrick Rose, who tore his meniscus for the second time, and is rumored to be out at least 4 to 6 weeks. He might make a return then, possibly right before the playoffs or kind of the first round. But I guess along the lines of the Bulls and what Derrick Rose has gone through these past 3 years, kind of missing. I think it's been like 75% of the games in these last 3 years, which is just really tough luck for a very talented player like him. But I guess to start off, Rahul, I want to ask the question of, in terms of the window that Derrick Rose has to win a title, do you feel that this is like probably the last year, or I guess the best year left for him to do that? And should he like come back and try to give it his all for the playoffs this year?
Well, it's hard to say because you never know what's going to happen in the future. But just looking at their team, like Pau Gasol is obviously he's getting older. I'd say the best player right now is Jimmy Butler. He's a free agent, so he could easily be on a different team next year. So yeah, like the window is like right now for them. Like, and it's sad that they don't have a healthy Derrick Rose because if they did, they could easily be one of the favorites to come out of the East. Um, but like you said, his recovery time is 4 to 6 weeks, and I mean, if he's fine after 4 to 6 weeks, then I don't see why he shouldn't come back and give it his all. Um, I think he's got to change his game a little bit because I think kind of if you watched him play like over this past year, he's still kind of like acts like the top dog, which is fine. He's just like in his blood, but I think he's got to start deferring more to like Pau Gasol and Jimmy Butler, and letting those guys kind of take over the offense, and then he needs to be kind of playing more of a supportive role. Um, the good thing for Chicago is they are the 3 seed right now, and I think even if they had Derrick Rose, they would slip into the 4 seed because of the Cavs. But after that, I think Washington is the 5 seed right now, and the Wizards just I don't think they've won a game this year. So I think at the very worst, over these past like these next 4 to 6 weeks, they drop into the 5 seed, not or sorry the 4 seed, into the 4 seed. So we'll see what that means for their playoff chances or their championship chances. So Jared, I'll shoot it back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree that yeah, it is a loss for the Bulls for this, but yeah, I mean you look at the Eastern Conference and the playoff picture, and even if they do drop off a little bit without Derrick Rose, it seems that there's not too many teams below them that are like kind of like surging or making a push to like surpass them. So yeah, I see Chicago, yeah, as like that 4 or 5 seed range. Um, yeah, I mean Washington, they've been playing really bad, and then Milwaukee, I'm not sure if they have it in them to like really rail off some like a 5 or 6 game winning streak. So yeah, I mean even if Chicago does move down to the 4 or 5 seed, yeah, I see Derrick Rose and his window of opportunity, kind of narrowing with him, being a year older next year, as well as Pau Gasol. You're not sure what you're going to get from him next year at all. Um, so yeah, I think this is like the best year for him to, possibly. I don't think it's too. I don't think they have too much of a chance with the Hawks and the Cavs in the East, but I think this is like the last like opportune year for him to like kind of make his claim. It's kind of interesting to note too. I think I read an article that he might be like one of the MVPs, like one of the only MVPs ever to not be like inducted into the Hall of Fame, like the
Oh
National
wow.
Hall of Fame. You kind of look at it like, okay, yeah, Steve Nash, he's definitely got to be in the Hall of Fame, and he's kind of struggled with injuries, but he's definitely got to be in the Hall of Fame based on his numbers and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But you look at Derrick Rose, and I don't think he really has a claim for the Hall of Fame. And you look at like the other MVPs of the league, and pretty much all of them are going to make it. So that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting to look at that too.
Yeah.
Kurt, do you have any other thoughts on D Rose and the Bulls?
Yeah, just looking at their salary obligations going into next season, since Jimmy Butler um, has the option of, maybe going elsewhere. They already have about $62 million locked up. Um, I guess actually 59 if Jimmy Butler doesn't take the qualifying offer, which he won't because he can make a lot more. So I'm not exactly sure, you know, the salary cap is projected to take a large jump in the next, couple of years. So I'm not sure, I don't know how much is Jimmy Butler a max contract guy? I don't know if I'm
He
qualified to
will.
say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
But
so.
I would imagine that he's going to get close to that just based on, he's having a great season. He's offensively capable and he's defensively one of the best wing defenders. So, with that being said, I'm not sure that Chicago will be able to afford him. Possibly. But again, I don't know how much the salary cap's going to jump, and I don't know how comfortable the owner is with the luxury tax. But he's just such a prototypical Thibodeau player that I feel like it would be hard for him to leave, and he probably loves playing there. So that being said, um, I don't think the Bulls window is done quite yet. You know, like you guys said, some players are getting older. But if you retain Butler and you still have Gibson, Noah, Gasol, and then some younger players that have promise, like Tony Snell, not Cameron Bairstow, but and Mirotic, like I think that if he, and of course this is obviously a huge if, knowing what's recently happened to the poor guy, just getting injured always. But you know they could still definitely be very good next season. They don't really have the potential to lose anybody besides Butler. So I'd say that it's definitely closing, but I don't think this is like the make or break season. I think they have at least one more good year left, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from. Would you guys, if you had to pick, like, between playing Chicago and Toronto in the second round, who would you pick?
I'd take Toronto.
Toronto?
Yeah, I would definitely take Toronto. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just the way the Bulls play and their like the defense there and the potential of like how good they can play. I mean, Toronto is a tough place to play, like come playoff time and everything, but
Mm.
yeah, I just think the matchups and everything that the Bulls present and Jimmy Butler possibly like guarding LeBron and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely want to see the Raptors instead.
Gotcha.
So I have a question for you two.
Okay.
If you're starting a team today and you could take Jimmy Butler or Klay Thompson, who would you take?
For me, 100% Klay Thompson.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah. J-Rod, you agree or no?
Um, yeah, I would take Clay as well. I think he's still developing a lot. I mean, so is Butler too. I mean,
Yeah.
they both had breakout years, but yeah, I feel that Thompson, um, yeah, he can continue to develop as a defender and then become like a very good shooter
Yeah.
too. So yeah, I would take Thompson, but I don't think it's as like unanimous as you would say, Rahul. I think part of me wants Butler, but I think Thompson. I lean towards Thompson more.
That's good. Well, let's switch over to the Western Conference real quick. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a few days ago, Rajon Rondo and his coach Rick Carlisle got into kind of like a little altercation. I think Rondo waved off a play or just ignored a play from Carlisle, and that started the altercation. And then he was subsequently suspended for a game by the Mavericks. How do you guys feel about Dallas right now? Do you guys think they're still contenders? Do they have enough? And I guess what do you make of this outburst in general? Kurt, why don't you start us off on this question?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question. I, for one, when they got Rondo, was pretty excited. I really thought that that was a major, major upgrade for that team. Um, and it hasn't really panned out quite like I thought, which is interesting. I'm not sure. He's apparently always had problems with that. That's something that this Boston Celtics team, when he was there with Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, like that was a well known that he's kind of a prima donna. And I guess maybe those three veterans with him kind of kept that under the radar. And I'm not sure, Tyson Chandler and Dirk obviously are veterans. I'm not sure if Dirk's probably more of like a lead by example kind of guy, and Tyson's probably more of one that would get up in your face about it. But and I'm not sure if they have the veterans to kind of keep somebody immature like that under control, and kind of hoping that it doesn't like blow up into some big deal where he starts pouting and things like that. But fact of the matter is, his PER since he's joined the team is 11.3,
Oh,
which is
Yikes.
just terrible. Averaging 9 points, 6.2 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 3 turnovers, which just isn't like those aren't the numbers that you'd expect him to put up. So I really thought they had a good chance when they picked him up, and as did a lot of people. But just watching the way that they play, I don't really see the dynamic working out between Rondo and Ellis. I think they both need the ball too much, and I don't think they have. I don't even expect them to win their first round. I guess depending on who they had to play.
well, right now it's Portland, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4-5.
Which I don't really like either of them, but at least Portland's playing a lot better since Robin Lopez has come back.
Yeah.
So if they were playing Portland in the first round, I would say that they're not going to win. So that's about my take on that. I've lost a lot of faith in them.
Hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree that it's certainly been underwhelming given the expectations of what Rondo was supposed to bring to this team. And you look at their team beforehand, and you don't really think they have a chance of making it in the West without a true point guard or one that's up to the caliber of all the other ones in the West. So yeah, it was good that they did get Rondo and gives them a chance, I guess. But yeah, it just hasn't worked out. It seems. I mean, their offense to start the year before he came was clicking on all cylinders, but you expect the drop off just as in terms of just regressing back to the norm. So yeah, their offense hasn't played as well, but that's kind of to be expected. And their defense has stepped up, I guess, and he brings that to their team. He brings a defensive presence and everything. But yeah, in terms of what he's been doing on offense and how he's been fitting on their team, it just seems that they really, I don't think they're contenders in the West. I think they're, along with the Clippers, like out of the 8 teams that I see in the West playoffs right now, I think they're the 2 of the weakest ones. So yeah, it's going to be tough for them to, yeah, even like Kurt said, to get out of the first round. So yeah, it seemed like it was a big deal when they acquired him, but it's definitely underwhelmed with what they've produced so far. So Rahul, you have anything else on this Rondo, I guess, outburst he had?
I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal because I think like Rondo he's almost like a battle-tested point guard, and like these things probably happen like a lot. And like Rick Carlisle's a good coach, so I don't think anybody's gonna like doubt him too much.
Yeah.
Like I think it's mostly just the media. Like if it was a younger coach, like can you imagine if this was like David Blatt and LeBron James? Like oh my god. But that being said, I also saw Dallas, or I guess more recently I've started seeing them as like a team that like you probably don't want to play in the playoffs, and they could like like spoil it for a lot of higher seeded teams. But I don't think that they have what it takes to be the champion this year. I just don't think. Like I don't know who their alpha dog is. Is it like Monta Ellis? Would you say? Like I don't think that's good enough
Yeah.
like for a championship team, even if you do have like a really balanced supporting cast. And I also think that Brandon Wright was very underrated for them. Like the job he did wasn't easy. He was that guy that could literally catch it and take 2 steps and dunk from wherever he was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that team needed or needs. So, we'll see. We got Dallas kind of floating around in the middle of the pack. Then we have teams like the Thunder, the Pellies, and even the Suns, kind of still fighting it out for the bottom, um, the 8th seed. Have you guys kept up with Russell Westbrook lately? Have you seen his stats?
Oh man.
Um, I think the last 3 games he's had 3 triple doubles.
Yep.
The last person to do that was actually LeBron in 2009. So these are some pretty like gaudy numbers, especially with KD being out. Um, would you guys place him in the MVP discussion, or is it maybe still too early for him? J-Rod, what do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly interesting to look at his stats in February, and I think he played 12 games, and he absolutely tore it up with like he's averaging like 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. So that's ridiculous. And these past few games, he's just gone off without KD and really taken pretty much all the offense for the Thunder, and has had significant numbers, and I think back-to-back triple doubles. I think he had 5 in this month actually. So he's been absolutely on a tear, and the Thunder still have lost in these last few games. But yeah, in terms of MVP discussion, I think it is a little early to have him enter, and considering he's missed some games earlier in the season. So I think it's still uh, Curry and Harden as the front runners, and then obviously LeBron definitely has to be considered, and what the Cavs do in these next 20 games, I think will switch people's minds possibly too with that. But I think it's gonna come down with this MVP race to probably the last 2 weeks of the season, and how I think it will come down to how these teams play in these last 2 weeks, and then how these stars perform. I think it's all about timing in this MVP race, and if Curry goes off for 5 games where he scores like 30 or more or something, and they beat some really good Western Conference teams, that seems to sway the voters at the end. If you put on a really good performance before the MVP votes come in. So yeah, I mean Westbrook, he's been playing really well, but yeah, I think it's a little early for him to enter that discussion. Kurt, what do you think about Westbrook and I guess the MVP race? Heading into the last fourth of the season.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early to say on Westbrook. I don't have the exact numbers, but I want to say he's something like 9-6 without Durant, something like that. Maybe a little worse since they just lost the last 2 games. And quite frankly, unless Durant is out and the Thunder rip off at least like a 10 or 8 or 10 game win streak, or maybe do something like the Cavs where they go, let's see, they have 23 games left. If they go something like 20-3 and Durant only plays in like 5 of those games, maybe I could see it if Westbrook's pretty much carrying the load, but I think it's too late for him to really make a push for MVP. Realistically, with how many games are left, I mean, they could maybe jump up to like the 4 or 5 seed, maybe. And I don't really think an MVP, regardless of how well he's playing, is going to be given to somebody on a team that's not like at least in the top 3 of their conference. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I think that just based on the way things have been going for Houston, that James Harden, I would say to me, he has it locked up. Maybe LeBron could catch him. I think Golden State, it's unfortunate for Curry because obviously he's a stud and he's very good. He's having ridiculous numbers. But that team, like when you look at that team, like they're just ridiculously deep and talented. Yeah. They have former All-Stars coming off their bench. And I know like Steph Curry's PER is 27.9, which is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy's shooting 48% from the floor, and that's a guy who takes a lot of jump shots. So that's ridiculous. But I think that really hurts him that, when you look at that team, they're so talented. And you look at Houston, and they don't have Dwight Howard, who isn't the same guy that he once was, but he's still like a big name. You look at that team, it's like, who on that team is good? Like, everyone on that team just jacks up threes. Is pretty much what their motto is. They take layups or threes. So the fact that they're 40-18 without Dwight Howard playing a lot of the season, that's just a testament to how good James Harden is.
Yeah.
And if it's like, the MVP isn't supposed to be who's the best player, but who's the most valuable. And a lot of people are saying that Westbrook's the best player in the NBA right now, which I'm not sure I'm totally on board with that yet. But if you take Harden off of the Rockets, that team is just not going to be good at all. So with that being said, I think that he should have it locked up unless the Cavs go on a ridiculous tear, because LeBron's numbers are obviously very good. And I think with the way that Kevin Love's played, people are kind of thinking a lot less of him right now, so they kind of think it's like LeBron and Kyrie, and Kevin Love's not really doing anything. So I'd say that Harden is first, LeBron is second, and could catch him if we go nuts or if Houston starts dropping. Then I'd say Steph, and then after that, I really don't think Russell deserves to be in the conversation just yet.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, since we just talked about some of the MVP candidates, we just touched on the Thunder as well with Westbrook. We want to give a little discussion, or at least an update on the Western Conference playoff picture right now. So, as it stands, most of it has stayed pretty much the same, with your top 7: Golden State, Memphis, Houston, Portland, Dallas, Clippers, Spurs. Those have pretty much been that's pretty much been the same the whole season. And really what it comes down to at this point seems to be a battle for the 8 seed, which is currently occupied by Oklahoma City, with the Pelicans a half game behind and Phoenix 1 game behind the 8 seed. So not really sure how much we want to touch into this, but what do you guys think, like, of those 3 teams, who do you think is most likely to make the playoffs? And from that, how high do you think that team can climb? Are they stuck at the 8 seed if they make it? Or, is there a chance that they can climb up maybe to the 5 or 6? I don't know. How high do you think they can go? So I'll address Johnny first with that question.
Yeah, so you look at the Pelicans, actually, and they've won 4 in a row, which is surprising considering Anthony Davis has been out. So it's kind of interesting to see that, New Orleans and Phoenix are still not out of it, that they're still like a half game and game behind Oklahoma City. So, I mean, yeah, Russell Westbrook is playing good and all, but they've lost the last 2 games, and yeah, Oklahoma City still has a lot of pressure on them to even make the playoffs. So I guess in terms of looking at the playoff picture, and I guess the Thunder and where they can end up potentially, I think it's still going to be tough to get out of that 8 seed for them. You look at San Antonio, who's at the 7, and who is, I guess, 3.5 games above OKC right now. And the Spurs have kind of struggled, it seems, these last few games. But I see them, they're a veteran team. They'll be able to, I think, get it together these last 15 to 20 games. So I don't really see them passing them. And then maybe the I don't know if the Clippers seem like not the greatest team, but then they, like last night, they beat the Grizzlies by 20. So they have these random nights where, Chris Paul and Blake play very well, and they're able to beat like one of these top Western teams. So I see OKC staying at that 8 seed, actually. I think they can move up possibly a 6 or 7, but I see it more as it's being tough to move out of that 8 seed and then for them to play Golden State in the first round. which I think is the most intriguing of the playoff matches. You also have Memphis, San Antonio, which will be a very good series if the seeds hold up, and then yeah, I mean all of them, Houston, Clippers, and then Portland, Dallas. I think all those are very entertaining series, but it will be interesting to see, I guess, these last 20 or so games, how this playoff picture kind of, if it does fluctuate or if teams move around. So, Rahul, I guess with that, what are your thoughts on OKC and maybe these other playoff teams, kind of maybe sneaking in?
Yeah. OKC is gonna make the playoffs, and the other teams won't. Like, I'm willing to bet any amount of nuggies on that. Um, I feel pretty confident in that. Like, yeah, so New Orleans has won 4 in a row, and that's with Davis and Anderson out. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think what that
Andrew
is.
Holiday.
Oh, right. So that's like 3 of their top guys. Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but I think what happens like a lot is like for the first few games after your top guys are out, you can like band together, play a little bit harder, and win some games. But over time, it catches up to you. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't think New Orleans is as good as Oklahoma City. Period. And then Phoenix, like I don't know. They blew up their team, and like they'll win some now, they'll lose some, but they're not going to put together a run to move up in my eyes.
Yeah.
Um, as far as Oklahoma City, I think they could have a legitimate shot to move up to all the way to the 6th seed. Um, San Antonio, like you said, J-Rod, has been struggling, and then the Clippers are without Blake Griffin, so I mean they're going to lose a lot of games that they would otherwise win over the course of the next week or two, however long Blake Griffin's out. So I'd say Oklahoma City is going to make the playoffs, and their ceiling is the 6th seed. Um, I kind of hope that they stay at the 8th seed because I would love to see a Golden State Oklahoma City
Yeah.
first round matchup. That would be just the greatest thing in my eyes. So, Kurt, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree that I watched the Pelicans Heat game last night.
I'm sorry to hear that.
To say it was underwhelming would be a large understatement.
Yeah.
New Orleans is pretty much very bad, is how I would say, and the Heat are even worse,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But when you look at the last 4 games they won, I mean, they beat Miami twice, and then they beat a Toronto team that's been playing terribly, and then they beat
Yeah.
Brooklyn. So I don't really think it's anything to read into. Like they're playing the Nuggies next, so they might win that.
Oh, it's got to be a win.
But when you look past that, like anytime like they have to, soon they have to play like Dallas, Memphis, the Bucks,
Oof.
a couple times Phoenix, Golden State. Like it starts to get pretty ugly for them towards the end of the season. They got a tough schedule.
Yeah.
So I think that there's no chance for them to make the playoffs. I don't think they'll even be close. And who might even have a more daunting schedule is the Phoenix Suns. Wow. Their schedule looks even more brutal, and it's just loaded with West teams and good East teams.
Oof.
So, I mean, we're talking, wow. But, yeah, I just based on the fact that Oklahoma City just has been there, done that, and the other teams that they're competing against haven't. Like, I agree with Rahul that unfortunately it looks like I'm going to be losing some nuggies because Oklahoma City will like 99% chance that they'll make the playoffs, I would say. As far as how high I can see them jumping, that'll be kind of up to the other teams. Oklahoma City can play very well. But the fact of the matter is that outside of, the top 6 seeds are playing 65% ball or better. So for Oklahoma, even to jump up, they have to jump up 6 games to get the 6th seed. I mean, that we're talking like, they're going to have to go something ridiculous like 18-5 maybe to jump even a couple spots.
Yeah.
So I think, and 18-5 is just hit 50 wins. So, which all the other teams are on pace to break that. So I think that maybe they could jump into the 7 seed. Because I don't think Pop really cares who they play in the first round. I don't know, maybe he'd rather play Golden State because they don't have as much experience as Memphis. Memphis the past couple seasons have been ridiculously close to beating the Thunder, and then it seems like things kind of just fall apart for them.
Yeah.
But they're just like, that's a really, I don't know, obviously you don't want to play either of those teams. There's not really any team in the West that I'd say, oh, I want to play them in the first round. But, yeah, I'd say 7 seed at best. But, yeah, I think they'll definitely make it. There'd have to be some sort of crazy injury that would happen for the Thunder to not make it. But they always have Dion, so even if, like, Westbrook goes down and, like, their whole team goes down, Dion can carry them. But they don't have Kendrick Perkins anymore, so that's a big loss.
That's a tough loss because that was the pick and roll that every team feared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, though, like, Perkins sets, like, brutal, illegal screens all the time. So I would not want to play against him either. If I had to pick, like, a playoff matchup in either conference that would be the most intriguing, I think for me it's still, just the way things are sitting right now, and obviously they're subject to change. I would love to see Atlanta play Indiana with Paul George back. I think that would be awesome, just a whole role reversal from last season.
Yeah.
And Indiana with Paul George, obviously they're playing, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They've been playing very well since George Hill came back. That team, I don't know, they play ridiculously solid defense, and when they get Paul George back, if they get Paul George back for the playoffs, like that would be a pretty awesome first round matchup. And I can't really say that as far as the East goes, that'd be about the only matchup I'd be looking forward to, which is interesting considering it's the 1 versus 8. But as far as the other ones are sitting right now, I'm not terribly interested in any of them. Now the Western Conference, I would love to watch all of them. Probably the least interesting to me would be Portland, Dallas. Just because they play more traditional. They don't really, Houston jacks up threes all the time, which is always fun to watch, and same with Golden State. So, yeah, most intriguing, I'd say Pacers, Hawks, with Paul George, of course.
Nice. Well, let's wrap it up here with you guys feeling the lightning round?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Who sponsors the lightning rounds, by the way? Do we know?
That's yet to be determined. We're working on a few.
Okay, J-Rod,
we're in contact. We got a few offers on the table.
Yeah,
a
few
weighing
energy
our
drinks.
options.
Okay, I heard the Illuminating Company was also interested, so J-Rod, make sure you give them a call back.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. I'm just gonna start. I'll throw out like a few questions and just give me like a quick response. Okay. Let's say, J-Rod, you answer first every time.
Okay.
You come in second.
Dang.
Right?
All right.
All right. Okay, so in the East, would you take the Cavs or the Field to win the conference championship?
Give me the Cavs.
Cavs.
Okay, same question. The West and Golden State.
Field. Give me the Field.
Golden State.
Dang. All right, let's switch over to talk about some players. You tell me which team this player is going to be on next year. Okay?
Yep.
We'll start with some Cavs. Kevin Love.
Lakers.
Not the Cavs.
Okay, Tristan Thompson.
Cavs.
Cavs.
Okay, and just because I know you guys want me to ask, LeBron James.
Cavs.
Cavs.
All right, cool. All right, let's go to some players then around the league. Jimmy Butler.
I think he stays on the Bulls.
I agree.
Okay, Goran Dragic.
I think he re-signs in Miami.
I'll take the Knicks.
Oh.
Marc Gasol.
I think he goes to the Knicks.
I think he stays in Memphis.
Okay, LaMarcus Aldridge. Not to be confused with Cole Aldridge.
Yes. Portland, but I could. There's rumors of him in the Spurs, so that would be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll stay. I think he'll stay in Portland.
Okay. Wesley Matthews.
Spurs.
I agree. I think that between Wesley and Aldridge, one of them is going to leave.
Yep.
So probably more likely that they'll let Wes Matthews go.
Cool. DeAndre Jordan.
Clippers. They're dumb. They'll overpay him.
Yeah, I'll go with that too. He's gonna command a lot of money, so somebody will be willing to pay him, and the
Okay.
Clippers probably would.
Greg Monroe.
Knicks. He's gotta become the next Amari, and his career's gotta rot in that.
Oh my God. Wow.
Wow. Okay, I'll say the Spurs.
Okay. And last person, Kawhi Leonard.
Spurs.
Yeah, I agree with Spurs. I don't think he can go anywhere.
Dang, Kurt, are the Spurs getting everyone?
Yeah, they're gonna
Sick.
some
Well,
of the guys.
Duncan's probably got to retire.
Yeah, I think they're
And
just gonna replace and reload. Like,
yeah, Pop might go too, but yeah, they'll maybe Manu also leaves, but yeah, they'll reload. They'll probably get someone
yeah,
who's got to fit real well in their system.
yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, sounds good. I think that will wrap up our podcast. As far as what we have coming up this week, I think we'll actually have some articles this week for you guys. Um, so sorry about that lull, but I don't know. You guys want to add anything or any shout outs or anything crazy?
I really don't have anything else. Kurt, you have any weekly shout outs?
I didn't really do any research to see if there were any trillions or anything. So unfortunately, no, I don't have anything right now. Maybe by the time we sign off, I'll think of something real quick, but I would not count on it.
Fair enough. Shout out to Imagine Dragons and their new album. It's awesome. I really enjoy
Yes.
it. So
You gotta get those ticks.
we got to get those ticks, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think then we will call it a day, and we will talk to everybody soon.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.